The salvage freighter, Meridian's Hope, drifted through the debris field like a ghost ship searching for memories. Hazel Chen stood at the viewport, her reflection barely visible against the endless expanse of shattered metal and frozen oxygen crystals. 3 years working the Outer Rim salvage routes had taught her that space held secrets, some beautiful, most terrible. "Hazel, you seeing this?" Leo's voice crackled through her headset. Her partner floated somewhere in the wreckage of what had been a Drakari colony transport, his suit lights flickering between twisted bulkheads. "What have you got?" She pushed off from the wall, magnetic boots clicking as she landed near the airlock controls. I don't know. Just get over here." Section 7, Lower Cargo Bay. The urgency in his voice made her move faster. Leo didn't panic easily. In the 3 years they'd worked together, salvaging everything from derelict stations to abandoned mining rigs, she'd seen him stay calm when their ship lost pressure, when they'd encountered a still-active defense drone. Even when they'd found the bodies were always the worst part. Hazel maneuvered through the twisted corridors of the Drakari ship, her helmet light cutting through the darkness. The Drakari, humanity's first contact with an intelligent alien species, and their most formidable rivals, dragon-like beings with scales that could withstand plasma fire, wings that could fold into armor plating, and a culture built on honor and strength. This transport had been caught in the crossfire of their civil war 2 months ago. No survivors reported. She found Leo in what had once been a cargo bay, now a tomb of frozen cargo containers and structural damage. He floated near a corner, his usually steady hands trembling as he pointed. "There," he whispered. At first, Hazel thought it was just debris. Then it moved. Curled in the corner, no larger than a human infant, was a Drakari hatchling. Its scales were a deep midnight blue, darkening to black at the edges. The membrane wings, still translucent with youth, were wrapped around its body like a cocoon. The creature's breathing was shallow, each exhale creating tiny frost crystals in the zero gravity. "By all the stars," Hazel breathed. "It's alive." "Barely." Leo's scanner beeped softly. "Core temperature is dropping. Maybe another hour, 2 at most." Hazel had seen Drakari before, warriors, diplomats, traders. They stood 8 feet tall, their presence commanding respect and fear in equal measure. They were proud, powerful, ancient. They didn't need humanity's help. This one did. She moved closer, and the hatchling's eyes opened brilliant gold, filled with a wisdom too old for its young body, and something else. Fear, pain, resignation. It expected nothing. Why would it? Left alone in the frozen dark, abandoned by fate and circumstance. In its short life, it had learned the universe was cold and uncaring. "We need to go," Leo said quietly. "Our oxygen's at 60%. We grab what we can carry, and we're taking him." Hazel was already moving, her hands working to unfasten the thermal blanket from her emergency kit. "Hazel, we don't know the first thing about Drakari physiology. We don't have the right equipment, the right food. Then we'll figure it out." She wrapped the hatchling carefully, feeling its cold scales through her gloves. It didn't resist, didn't fight, just watched her with those ancient gold eyes. "We can't just leave him here, Leo." There was a long pause. Then Leo sighed, that particular sigh that meant he'd already made up his mind to help her, and was just processing the logistics. "The ship's medbay has a variable atmosphere chamber," he said, "already moving. I can rig it for higher temperatures. But Hazel, if the Drakari find out we have one of their young, we'll deal with that when we have to." The journey back to the Meridians, Hope felt like it took hours. Hazel held the hatchling against her chest, feeling its heartbeat slow and steady through the thermal blanket. Once aboard, they worked, frantically, Leo reprogramming the medbay while Hazel searched their databases for anything about Drakari biology. "Got it," Leo shouted. "Temperatures rising, atmospheres adjusted. Get him in." Hazel placed the hatchling gently into the chamber. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, slowly, those golden eyes blinked open again. The tiny chest expanded with a deeper breath. The scales began to shimmer with inner warmth. Over the next 3 days, they became unlikely caretakers. Leo discovered the hatchling could digest a protein paste made from their emergency rations, supplemented with mineral compounds from their water recycler. Hazel learned that Drakari young responded to vocal patterns, and found herself talking to him, constantly telling stories about Earth, about her family, about why she'd chosen the stars over solid ground. The hatchling grew stronger. He began to make sounds, small chirps and trills that might have been attempts at communication. On the 4th day, He extended a tiny clawed hand and pressed it against the chamber's transparent wall. Hazel placed her hand on the other side, matching his gesture. "We need to name him," Leo said, watching from the doorway. "No." Hazel shook her head. "His people will name him when we find them, if we find them." "When?" she repeated firmly. It took 6 more days of sending encrypted messages through every channel they could access. Finally, a responsive Drakari cruiser would meet them at the neutral station on Kronos V. The night before the meeting, Hazel sat by the medbay chamber, watching the hatchling sleep. He'd grown noticeably larger, his scales now gleaming with health. "Hey there, little one," she whispered. "Tomorrow you go home, to your real family. They'll teach you everything you need to know. How to fly, how to fight, how to be strong." Her voice caught. "How to be Drakari." The hatchling stirred, golden eyes opening. For a moment, they simply looked at each other across the barrier of the chamber wall. "But I hope," Hazel continued, "that you remember something. That one night, when you expected nothing, there were humans who gave you everything they could. I hope you remember that not all of us are enemies, that sometimes, across the vastness of space, someone will care." The Drakari delegation arrived with all the ceremony and power their species commanded. The lead warrior, scales like burnished copper, bowed deeply to Hazel and Leo. "You have returned what was precious," she said, her voice like distant thunder. "This hatchling is of the royal bloodline. His loss was grievous." "He's a fighter," Hazel said, watching as the tiny Drakari was carefully transferred to a specialized container. "He's going to be strong." The warrior's eyes the same brilliant gold as the hatchling's fixed on Hazel. "He will remember," she said softly, "and so will we. The debt of a dragon is not easily forgotten." Hazel Chen. As the Drakari ship departed, Leo stood beside Hazel at the viewport. "Think we'll see him again?" he asked. Hazel smiled, remembering those golden eyes filled with new hope instead of resignation. "Yeah," she said, "I think we will, in the vastness of space, where civilizations clashed and differences divided. 2 humans had proven something simple but profound, that compassion required no translation, that kindness recognized no borders, and that sometimes giving everything meant gaining something far more valuable than salvage. It meant making the universe a little less cold." End.